Hi, this is Tom. Welcome to my channel. I've been wanting to do a video on narcissism for quite a while. Actually, I would like to do a number of them, but I'm going to start with an introductory one. It should be quite short, and then follow up with others later on. Now, this is my name, and I'm putting this up here because I've done hundreds of posts on Quora. So if you like what you're seeing in this video and you'd like to read more of what I've written, you can just Google this and it'll show posts of mine from Quora. And for the name, there was an actor named Tom Ewell, Ewell, who was in The 7-Year Itch. He also had his own TV show, one of the first guys to have a TV show back in the early days. And his name is spelled with an E. So it'll ask you, do you mean Tom Ewell with an E? So you can put this in quotes. You put it in quotes, that'll force Google to use the right last name. And Quora, and you can find things I've written. Okay, going on to narcissism. So narcissists, those who have narcissistic personality disorder, have core beliefs which include viewing themselves as special, unique, mistreated and misunderstood by others, more entitled than others, and never at fault or to blame for anything. Because the world is constantly bombarding them with evidence to the contrary, they are subject to very high levels of stress due to cognitive dissonance. They have a whole host of defense mechanisms to deal with this. So I think this is a very good introductory statement regarding narcissistic personality disorder. And I want to make clear that I'm dealing primarily with narcissistic personality disorder and not with narcissism in general, because everybody has issues with narcissism. It's part of being a human being. But what we could call pathological narcissism is different, fundamentally different. And it's fundamentally different because there are different core beliefs. And the core beliefs create a mental structure that interprets and understands the world differently than non-narcissists. And I'll be going into detail about that in future videos. But it's something to understand that there's a difference in the perception of reality. And that's a challenge in dealing with narcissists and understanding narcissists. Because a really common error is to think that narcissists are perceiving the world like you do, and then interpreting their behavior as you would interpret your own behavior if you behaved the way that they did. And it's a very different thing. For example, for you to behave as a narcissist, you'd have to be just really, really angry to a point to where your normal mechanisms regulating your behavior were overridden just by this anger. Because normally you would stop yourself and you just don't act in certain ways because it's just against your fundamental belief system. But narcissists perceive reality in a different way. And in particular, I'm going to highlight this exaggerated sense of entitlement. That's a key feature to pathological narcissism. And that is that narcissists believe that they are entitled to more than they have. They view themselves as having a special status. And the key point I'm wanting to get at here is that they see a mismatch between what they have and what they think they should have. So if you think of a seesaw and a really heavy person, okay, is sitting on the seesaw, they're on the ground, and then you have like a light child is way up in the air, that represents the the heavy person represents the entitlement of the narcissist, what they think they deserve. That's a better way of putting it. I want to put it from their perspective, is what they think they deserve. And then on the other side, the light child is what they actually have. And so they're trying to get these things in balance. They're trying to add to things like power, money, fame, appreciation, recognition. That's the child in the analogy I'm using, the light side. They're trying to get these two to be level. So from their point of view, they're trying to right the scales of justice. And so they don't perceive themselves to be doing anything unreasonable or unfair. And that's because of the exaggerated sense of entitlement. And indeed, they view themselves as victims. They see themselves as being mistreated and misunderstood by others because of this mismatch between what they perceive their status to be and what they actually have, seeing these things out of whack. And they feel that if other people could view their specialness, their special qualities, their uniqueness, their intrinsic value, if they could see the narcissist the way the narcissist sees themselves, perceiving these special traits, then they would agree with the narcissist that the narcissist would be entitled to having more of everything. And this also comes into the idea that they're not to blame for anything. There's actually quite a lot that goes into this. And I'd like to spend in another video really go into this. But if anyone's dealt with a narcissist, they'll know that the narcissists very rarely, if at all, will admit to having done anything wrong or even recognizing that they've done anything wrong. And they won't, ask for forgiveness or, accept. I mean, there are exceptions, like they're forced to, or they're trying to manipulate you to get something, but they're not going to perceive themselves to be at fault or to blame. And if you think of an emperor or a monarch, then the emperor can do anything that he wants because he's the emperor. And so the concept that an emperor would be at fault or to blame for something doesn't make sense because they're the emperor. They can do anything. And so their sense of entitlement is along that nature, to where they have such a high status that they can perceive that anything that they do to try to achieve this equality, this equaling of the scales of balance is appropriate and right. Okay, so those are the essential ideas I wanted to share with this introduction, and I'll mention just a couple of other things because I created some images that might be interesting with Midjourney. This first one is from the myth, narcissist admiring his image and falling in love with his image. And there's a really profound understanding that this ancient myth is bringing out, and that is that narcissists do not fall in love with himself, but with the reflection of himself, the image of himself. That's a very important concept, and that's something I'd like to talk about in future videos. Here I'm trying to capture the smug look that you'll find in narcissists. I thought that came out pretty well in this image. This one here is bringing out the desire for recognition and appreciation, fame. And a point I wanted to bring out here is that a normal level of narcissism would be if you did something worthy of praise, then it's normal to accept that to a certain level. So say you're in church or you're at work and you did something and somebody gives you a plaque and they some award or something, then they say a few words, how they appreciated what you did, then a normal response would be to be, really happy about that. But there's a limit to it. So if they continued on past a certain point and they kept going on, you would feel uncomfortable and it wouldn't be pleasant and you'd want it to end. And that's normal. But for someone with pathological narcissism, there's no end to that. They'll just stay forever, basking in the glory and appreciation and so forth. They can't have enough because it's like a quench. A thirst that can't be quenched. And then the final image I have here is a darker one. And I wanted to mention here that a misconception that a lot of people have about narcissists, and I'm talking specifically about narcissistic personality disorder, is that narcissists are sadistic, or narcissists are wanting to hurt you, and that can be a misunderstanding. I'll have to go into detail about that in another video. But the point that I'll make here is if you're talking about a run-of-the-mill narcissist, generally speaking, you don't enter into the equation. They just don't care about you. And so they're hyper-focused on themselves. So a lot of the damage that they do is unintentional. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't. Anybody can intentionally hurt another person. And they'll be more inclined to do that than other people because they don't have the moral qualms about doing that other people have. So I'm not saying this doesn't happen, but I'm saying a lot of the time, and more often than people commonly think, the narcissist isn't even thinking about the impact of their behavior on you, even though it can be extreme cruelty and causing a great deal of anguish and pain. Whereas there are certain behavior disorders, such as malignant narcissism or psychopathy, that do involve intentional cruelty or sadism. And these people are very highly narcissistic. So it can be difficult to kind of parse the difference between these things. I'll go into detail about that in another video. But I'll bring this one to an end. And until next time, thank you for watching.